Can't reach.
Can I help, little boy?
Sure.
Here you go.
Gee, thanks, mister.
You're welcome. Well, you just caught me using the product I'll be telling you about today. Grace. Here, come and sit down with me. What's grace, you ask? Well, the Catechism defines grace as the free and undeserved help that God gives us to respond to His call to become children of God, adoptive sons, partakers in the divine nature and eternal life. Among other things, it helps us to wish and do good. Now you might be thinking, come on, Felix, I don't need no grace, I do good all the time. Now, in addition to a book about grammar, you are, in fact, in need of grace. But in seriousness, if you don't believe me, just ask a happy customer, St. Augustine, a guy who knows a thing or two about grace. Without grace, men do nothing good when they either think or wish or love or act. Now if that isn't a good review of a product, I don't know what is. How come we need grace? Well, I brought along my friend St. Thomas Aquinas to explain it. Give him a warm welcome, folks.
Hello! Good to see you, hello!
Good afternoon, St. Thomas Aquinas. You want to explain to some of our viewers just how it is grace and good works work? Sure. So as we all know, man was created by God in a wonderful state. But then he sinned. Bad plan. Because of this, we all have original sin. Therefore, we can speak of human nature in two ways. First, in a prelapsarian state. The state it was in before sinning. Or we can speak of human nature in its post-lapsarian state. The state it's in now. Now, in the prelapsarian state of integrity, man could wish and do good proportionate to his nature by natural endowments. He could therefore have acquired virtue without grace, although he would still need grace for infused, supernatural virtue. But in the state of corrupt nature, as we are now, man falls short of what he could do by his very nature, so that he is unable to fulfill by his own natural powers these goods. This doesn't mean man can't enact certain particular goods, like building a nice house or cooking a good meal. I do like a good meal. What it means is that his actions can never be as good as they should be, just by virtue of his nature. This seems to fly a bit in the face of the way that a lot of people usually talk about good works. It sure does, Felix. The thing is, people forget that mankind is fallen. Think of it like this. When an athlete is sick, he can move around a bit and do some things like heating up chicken noodle soup. But he can't do the things he could when he was well, like run a marathon. It's the same thing with humanity as a whole. We are fallen, and in our fallen state, we can do some particular goods without grace, but not nearly as well or as many as in our natural prelapsarian state. But with grace, we can do things better. Yes, exactly. He can enact goods proper to him by his created, unfallen nature. And in addition to this, he can enact supernatural goods, such as acts of faith, hope, and charity. Isn't that amazing, folks? In a few minutes, we'll be taking some questions from our live studio audience. But for right now, here's a brief message from our sponsors.
You've drunk things and been thirsty again, but how about a drink that satisfies eternally? Power Christ! Do you want to be uncomfortably sanctified? You've heard of drinks that give you energy, but how about a drink that comes from the liturgy? These aren't Martin Luther's puns. These puns are instituted by Jesus. Catholic puns! You've heard of a monstrance, but how about monstrosity? It holds Jesus. Real Jesus! Rosary, liturgy, vespers, lauds, benedictions, more devotions than your day has room for. You'll be so faithful, atheists will be like, there's no God. And you'll be like, Thomas Aquinas, and kick them in the brain with your theology legs. The sacred blood, it's like Jesus Christ in a cup. It's Jesus Christ in a cup. After drinking power thirst, you'll build so many things, you'll feel like Saint Joseph the worker. So many girls will want to marry you, you'll feel like Saint Augustine. Use NFP with your spouse and you'll have babies. So many babies, like 14 babies. Pray the rosary with your babies and people will think that they're monks. One of your sons will go to a discernment retreat with actual monks. And he'll pray with monks. And he'll realize he's called to religious life and he'll become an actual monk. And then he'll live the rest of his life in a monastery. After after drinking power of Christ, you'll be so celibate, you'll be like the Virgin Mary. Grace! Ah, grace!
And we're back with questions from our audience about the power of grace to help us wish and do good works. First, you there.
Hey, my name's Pelagius. Oh, be quiet. Big fan of good works. I was wondering, doesn't it seem that man can wish and do good without your product? I mean, man is master of his acts, right? And what we're master of, we have power over, right? And hence man, of himself, can wish and do good without the help of grace.
I'll, let my boy Tom handle this one. Alright, Pelagius. Man is master of his acts and of his willing or not willing because of his deliberate reason, which can be bent to one side or to the other. And although he is master of his deliberating or not deliberating, yet this can only be by a previous deliberation. And since it cannot go on to infinity, we must come at length to this, that man's free will is moved by an extrinsic principle, which is above the human mind, to wit, by God. Yes, thank you. Great. Another question? Hello. My name's Damashane. Thank you. Your product is great, and I've actually got a fair bit of experience with it. But I was wondering just how exactly it works. Well, really my question is this. How is it that grace is necessary for good actions, since man has more power over things that are according to our nature than things beyond it, and sin is totally against our nature? Thanks. I can answer that one for you. We get this question a lot. It comes down to your understanding of sin. While it's true that sin doesn't belong to our nature, what is sin? Sin is a failure to do the good that belongs to us by nature. We have time for one last question. Hi, my name is Tom Everyman, and I was just wondering, how exactly do we get your product? How is it that we get grace? There are lots of ways, but ultimately, all grace comes from God. So start praying. That's right. Take time to get to Mass, read the scriptures, and just spend time with Christ. That being said, a lot of the time you won't even be conscious that you're using the product. See, when we open ourselves up to God's grace, we'll naturally do good. It's a lovely system, patent pending. That's all the time we have for today, folks, but we hope to see you next time. God bless.